Hello and welcome to FM Predicts, a brand new series on the channel where we're going to let the Football Manager match engine predict scores from real life world football games. Let's see how Football Manager can really predict what happened in the real world of football. Today's one we'll be looking at Eintracht Frankfurt versus Rangers. It's the Europa League Final on the 18th of May and will be tomorrow at time of release of this video. To do this prediction, we are going to use the versus mode in Football Manager. It's a new feature in Football Manager where you can put two teams head to head and see how they do. Limitations on it mean that you have to manage both teams at the minute, so that's perfectly fine. We've put some ground rules in place to account for my bias. I'm not allowed to make tactical changes and I'm not allowed to make substitutions. They're the only rules out with suspended players and injured players, so anyone who is not available for selection cannot play. And tactical systems must be as realistic as possible. Now, sometimes managers will change things in game, and that is obviously against the rules because that allows me to have a tactical bias and affect the result. So it's the first 11 versus the first 11 based on tactics that they are playing in real life and on the go, and let's see how Football Manager predicts it. We are always going to have a guest on for this series as well. Today's guest is Aleh, the face of Wasted Possession. All his links will be down below. He's a very, very knowledgeable guy. Very, very good Football Manager creator. Please go and give him all the love in the world. It'd be awesome to show him some love. Tell him Don sent you as well. And we'll get into today's prediction video. Welcome, Aleh. Thanks for coming on to this sort of FM Predicts video. We're covering today the Europa League Final with Frankfurt and Rangers. And just want to sort of start off with what your general thoughts are on the two teams for this, mate.
I think it's interesting because I think you, being the Rangers fan, will definitely be wanting or hoping for the Rangers winning, backing them, and me from the neutral thinks Frankfurt will probably be the victorious team. And then thanks for inviting me on as well. I should have started with that. But yeah, so I think we'll be able to have a good discussion on it. Oh, as a goal goes in on this simulation.
Yeah, it's this simulation. With the simulation, I tried to replicate the formation, so I kind of just looked up their formation that they played against West Ham because I thought that's the most obvious one to go with, and then loaded in FM's pre-text
Yeah,
formation for that because 3-4-3 is never a formation I've ran before in Football Manager, believe it or not.
nah, same.
But no, so I think, yeah, as you say, I'm obviously a Rangers fan, so I have a horse in this, and that's one of the reasons why I chose you, is because you're a knowledgeable guy about football. I know you understand the FN community as well, and trying to get everything else. I actually couldn't work out how to do the Rangers. See, try to recreate James Tavernier's for style in Football Manager. You just can't do it. How
Yeah,
did you get
he
your
is
right?
quite unique.
How did you get your right back to arrive at the back post?
Exactly. I think there's a reason why he's been involved in the most goal contributions in Europe. I believe was a stat that I read the other day.
It probably wouldn't be that far off. And relevant to the Europa League, he is the top goal scorer in the Europa League. And this is something for a Rangers fan I find is absolutely mental. Is that we are so used to James Tavernier now. We've had him for 5 years, and he scores that many and assists that many that seeing him top goal scorer just feels normal. But it's completely abnormal in the world of football.
Yeah, having that right back. I guess he's not too bad on a set piece as well. I don't know if he is taking like Rangers free kicks and penalties a lot of the time, but I know it's something that he can do. So I
Yeah,
guess that sort of thing helps. But I mean, if it's clearly working, you're in the final.
yeah, he is our registered penalty taker, and I believe 4 of those 7 goals are from penalties. But again, to make this stat even more impressive, all 7 goals that he has scored in the Europa League are after the group stages, so they're all knockout games. And I think to add to that is every opening goal that was at Ibrox this year and the Dortmund away game was scored by Tavernier, which again is, it's your captain leading by example, isn't it? And I think I'm going to use that to lead into what I think is probably one of the most key battles for this, because when you're looking at these stats for Frankfurt, Kostic is clearly one of their best players. He's leading them for assists and chances created and shots and stuff.
Yeah.
And you've got Tavernier on the other side. And I think, much like the Leipzig game where it was Tavernier versus Angelino that was a key battle, we're going to see very, very similar in this game. I think Kostic is obviously a bit more advanced than what Angelino would be in that regard, because Angelino's obviously more naturally an attacking left back, whether Kostic is more of a sort of winger that can cover at left back if need be. So what do you make of that battle?
I think it'll be interesting, and it's funny you bring Kostic up because even like in the league this season, Frankfurt is sitting at 11th. I think the day of recording, they've just drawn 2-2 with Mainz. And Kostic still 7 goals, 12 assists in the Bundesliga, which when the team is struggling, you're still able to provide that sort of output from the position he plays is very, very important and sort of integral. He's clearly still performing. So I think it'll very much with him playing on that left side more often and Tavernier on the right. That's a really, really good talking point, and I think that'll be a real interesting battle. Who can outshine who probably dictates who will be winning this sort of game. But I mean, Kostic, he's been phenomenal, and I think all those Frankfurt players will know. Obviously, they're 11th this season. If they don't win this, there's no European football next season.
Yeah,
So I think we're going to see the best Frankfurt team we've seen, and that's shocking considering they beat Barcelona to get there.
yeah, I think when you look at the teams that both these teams have beaten to get here, I think out with Braga, I don't think Rangers are a favourite in any of their ties, and I can't remember. I think was it Betis, West Ham, Barcelona, and I'm struggling to remember the other team that Frankfurt played, but I don't think they've been consistent anywhere near favourites either. I think if you look at this at the quarter-final stage or even the last 16 stage, these would be two teams that would be quite low down if you were looking at the odds at that point. And I think, as you say, I think it's a big thing for both teams because certainly, as you say, Frankfurt are getting no European football next season if they don't win it. Rangers have to play 3 qualifying rounds for the Champions League next year if they don't win it, whether it's their rival Celtic or directly, and that's a £40 million swing if you lose and then don't qualify next year against your direct rivals. It's a huge game for both teams.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I think Frankfurt topped the group, so they didn't have to do any of the sort of knockout round playoffs or anything like that. They went straight into the last 16 against Betis. Obviously, managed to win. I think I heard a first leg loss against Barcelona, but then turned it around in the second leg to come back. And with their season form in the league, completely unexpected. It seems like they're very much geared up for this. And obviously, we saw them beat a very, very, very good West Ham side who, yeah, maybe they have dipped off a little bit in sort of the recent like point of the season towards the end of it. But I think the West Ham fans were really geared up for that. I think the place would have been geared up for it as that race for top 4 was getting further and further away and maybe put their eggs into that basket. And Frankfurt overcame them. So it's really the pressure's on for Frankfurt from that perspective.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick look at the injury list, and both teams have quite a number of injuries. I'm looking at Frankfurt here. You've got Danny Da Costa, who's a very, very good right back himself. You've got Ramage. You've got Heinz-Reger, who I believe is back in training and trying his hardest to get back into this game from what I've heard. But I believe he went off in the West Ham game. You've got Lundstrom, who's a very good winger. You've got Strenda and Makanda, who's been out the entire season. You then look at Rangers' injuries list. So you've got Aborfa, who's been out for the whole season with heart issues, unfortunately. You've got Kamaru, who's hoping to be back fit, but he's not in training at the minute. You've got Hollander, who's been out most of the season. Morelos, who's been out for a number of months, as well as Yanis Hadji. Do you think these injuries play a big part? You're looking at Rangers here without a registered senior striker, and a number of big injuries to Frankfurt as well.
I mean, with Rangers, Hadji's a major one, but they've not had him since January.
Yeah.
So they've done the hard bit of getting to the final without him, pretty much. Obviously, they would have to get through the groups, and they would have had him through for them. But in terms of making it through those knockout stages, they've obviously done that without him. Roof will be another big one, and obviously Alfredo Morelos. With I know he's had a bit of a weird time with the Rangers with his attitude, but there's no denying he is a really good striker
Yeah.
for them.
I think that's one thing with Morelos, and it's not so relevant for this game that people look at as his disciplinary record, but that's something that has improved massively over the past sort of 18 months since, Rangers started being successful again, if you like.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably the biggest loss of all them for me because he is, by far, he's a player that's made for the Europa League, and particularly these German teams, if you watch the Dortmund games, we don't beat Dortmund without Morelos. The same way if they have Haaland, they probably beat us as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
But Morelos was the thing that made that Dortmund defence come back. And when I looked at the Leipzig game, even the first leg that we lost 1-0, I was looking and went, do you know what? See, if we just had a Morelos here, those defenders would be toiling. And I think, you know, similar with Frankfurt, I think they would toil with him as well. But again, I don't know a huge amount about these Frankfurt guys just because I've not seen huge amounts of them. So I feel bad that I've not got that information, to be honest. But I imagine some of these guys will affect them as well.
That Danny Da Costa injury is a massive one because Danny Da Costa has been key for Frankfurt this season, and I think these injuries are something that Rangers can really look to exploit, even without a striker. Like Glasner, been in charge since the start of the 21 season at Eintracht Frankfurt. Is in the sim. I mean, we're predicting, I guess, that they win it. Obviously, he took them to fifth, won them, got them the European competition, and now he is obviously no longer um maybe not secure about his job, finishing 11th, not getting that financial package again for the club
Yeah.
coming up. So that is something that I think Rangers can look to exploit along with the injuries as well.
Yeah. I was kind of a bit disappointed that the highlights kind of finished there because I'm really enjoying this conversation. But, I'm just going to jump into it. Give me a score prediction, buddy.
I'm gonna go 2-1 to Frankfurt, but after extra time.
Oh, see, I'm going to go 2-1 to Rangers, normal time. And that might be my bias coming in. It might be.
I think it definitely is, yeah, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Obviously, Football Manager predicted 2-0 Frankfurt. Was actually, when you look at the stats, quite a close game. We'll try and get the stats back up on the screen and remember to do that. But the stats were actually quite a close game for the Football Manager prediction. It was just that Frankfurt scored their 2 chances and Rangers missed a couple of big ones. So
And that's probably reflective with the Rangers not having a registered striker available.
yeah,
If there is a registered striker, there's a difference, and maybe a Football Manager can't account for the goal scoring quality like James Tavernier that Rangers have.
yeah, and I think as well when I was playing Joe Rebo as a false 9 for that simulation, he was half a
Yeah.
star in that system on Football Manager. Football Manager doesn't recognise that this player is actually a decent player that can do that job. It just goes, he doesn't know it. He has no clue what he's doing. What are you doing?
Yeah, 100%. Which is why I think it'll be a little bit tighter when it comes to the actual game day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aleh, for coming on. I really appreciate this. I'll get people to write down in the comments and see what they think as well, and then they can mock us for how wrong our score lines are in a couple of days.
I don't plan on that. I'm gonna get loads of praise for being right. So do not worry. Do not worry. Nah, thanks for inviting me on, man. It's been good.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks all so much for watching this video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I thought Aleh was a fantastic guest. Please again go and check his stuff out. Links are down below. He does Wasted Possession. He does his own Football Manager content. All brilliant stuff. You also see him popping up in various FM drafts as well throughout the times. Brilliant guy. So thanks so much to Aleh for coming on and having this. I'm going to also invite you guys to put your score predictions down below for this Europa League final between Eintracht Frankfurt and Rangers. Let me know what you think the score is, and we'll see tomorrow how well both ourselves and Football Manager have predicted. Of course, right now we have Football Manager and Aleh both sticking with Frankfurt wins, while there's myself going for the Rangers win, with my bias, of course, also in play. If you are enjoying this and you are new to the channel, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and I'll hopefully catch you all for our next FM Predicts video in the near future.